So as you can see, with this correctly positioned and sized, this latch is definitely not slippable. And unfortunately, this is one of those things that once you've seen it, you will never be able to unsee it. It's absolutely everywhere, and it's not all just bad installation, although that is a factor. A lot of it is just maintenance over time. So someone says, oh, the door's sticking, so someone comes and adjusts the hinges. Oh, it's not latching properly. Oh, well, we'll adjust or replace the strike plate with something bigger. All those little things that just eventually degrade the security of the doors. And it's quite disheartening to see the very expensive locks, 250 quid worth of locks or worse, and it's completely undermined because of a single dead latch plunger. Some of it is also retrofitting. You're swapping out the lock on a door and it's not planned when it should be planned that maybe some joinery work needs to be done beforehand, or the door needs to be rehung to make sure that the gap is sufficiently small to ensure the lock works properly. Instead of that being done, the lock is just swapped out and the assumption is made that it will work. So stuff like that happens, as well as, unfortunately, the poor installations that do happen. So before we move on to tools properly, let's just dispel a couple of myths. These. So you will doubtlessly have watched some of the presentations by Deviant, Olaf, and his ilk, where they love the traveller hook. And I'm not saying anything against our American colleagues, but they do have a different regulatory environment to us. So you have to get this, I'll show you how it works in a second, between the door and the frame. And it is 3 mils thick. That's quite a big gap. And if you look at this one, this is a slightly longer one. I mean, this is a draper thing. It's an automotive tool, really, rather than anything else. And that's 3.5 mil. So I've gone to Wilco to buy this. I'm not going to spend a fortune on tools when I don't have to. This is just an O-ring pick, but it's exactly the same as the traveller hooks that you buy from covert entry stores. And what happens is, my thumb's going to represent the frame. You put this in between the door and the frame, and you pivot it. You pivot it against the latch and push it backwards. That works really nicely. Where this works, it's brilliant, because that turning force on the handle is directly transmitted to the end of the tool, and it's very smooth, it's controlled, it's quiet, very low risk of damage, but it relies on having, for the UK, certainly a considerable gap for you to put this in and then be able to work with it. Even more so with this. Yes, this will get down the top of your latch slip guards and your plates, but you need to have a 3.5 mil gap to even get the tool in, never mind work with it. So yes, in the US, brilliant, and when they work in the UK, great, but as part of your everyday toolkit, well, you can tell this thing's pristine. This thing's hardly ever been out. It just, you put it in your kit a couple of times, it never gets taken out, and you go, you know what, I'm not going to bother with that anymore. And honestly, think of it this way, if you can use the traveller hook, odds are you can use a screwdriver. It's that kind of gap that you're looking for. The advantage of traveller hook over the other tools that I'm about to show you is it can be explained away a lot easier. You can throw one of those in a toolbox along with a bunch of other stuff and it's nicely explained away. Whereas these, not so much. If someone finds that while they're looking through your toolbox, they're going to be asking some serious questions, and rightly so. But it's 0.8 of a mil. 0.8 of a mil thick. This one, slightly thicker, I think. Yeah, 1 mil. So these give you much more flexibility when faced with UK doors where our building regulations say there's got to be the minimal gap possible. So the way these work, very old-fashioned thing, you put it over and then you quite simply pull it back. And as you pull it back, the door and the frame will wedge this in place and the latch will be pushed out of the way. So it's a quick pulling method like that. The problem is that it's relatively loud compared to the traveller hook, and also if it's a painted frame, you're going to scratch it. That's just guaranteed. but you can have your cake and eat it too. With this, you can put it in at a slight angle and use the little spade end there. So you wedge this corner against the frame and you twist. And you can open it just like a traveller hook. The downside of doing it like that is that the twisting of this absorbs some of that force. So if you have a particularly sticky latch, or maybe it's binding up against part of the frame or the strike place or whatever, you're going to struggle a bit more to overcome that resistance. But it does work, and it's a lot quieter than the yanking method. Now that's where this handle has come from. So this started out life as a mini gym, and they have a bit of paracord on the end. So you put your wrist through, and then it gives you a bit more room to give it a tug, a bit more grip, rather than just relying on holding the end if you're in a particularly deep lock. But it doesn't give you as much reach, especially for doing that spade pivoting motion. So that's where this has come from. You can't get it any further into the gap between the door and the frame because you've got this great big nut. Thought about replacing that with a rivet, but that's another question for another time. You've got that great big nut, but the difference is when you get this down into position, instead of just having your tips of your fingers on that, which you can do, obviously, especially in an environment like this where everything is perfect and you put your thumb exactly where you want it to be. In the real world, that doesn't always work. It's a little bit sketchy. So you've got this to hold on to, and it means you can control it much better. You can get much more turning force on, and you can just hold on to it and not drop it. So that's why that's turned up on there, and fold it, you've got something much smaller than this. This does fit in my pocket. The trousers that I wear on a day-to-day basis have quite deep main front pockets. Side pockets. They've got quite deep pockets. This fits in, but you're going to be asked questions if anyone finds it. That is a little bit easier to stow away. So first choice, second choice. Keep that out. Moving on to the wire. Simple piece of wire. Now, people use piano wire for this. Whatever, really. As long as it's got a little bit of flex in it, a little bit of elasticity, I should say. So it bounces back, retains its shape to some degree, but it's got to be ductile. So you've got to be able to shape it, and that's why I like this. Now, the piano wire, you can't really shape that very well, which is why I don't like it. But this, I can put the curve that I need into it.